In the previous video, we covered how to interact with the System Administration module. I highly recommend watching that before this one if you haven't. It will be linked in the description. In this video, we will be covering the Global Configurations module. Global configurations are system settings which are usually utilized by the rest of the system to enable proper data capture. Basically, these are system settings which rarely change and are applicable across other system modules. Some of these configurations would be like the setup of countries, setup of market regions, setup of company branches, definition of currencies, gender, marital status, relationship types, batch types, various titles, the age bands, value types, period units, frequencies, and so on and so forth. These are settings that can only be altered by the system superusers since their state has a global impact on how data is captured in the system. Unintended changes to these settings could cascade into a big chunk of data being captured incorrectly by the system. Normally, for this module, if the data setup is ready, we can choose to add this data into the system one by one, or if the data is huge, we can utilize the functionality of importation from Excel. The importation from Excel functionality is applicable across each list view in the system. Meaning if you have your data properly formatted on Excel, you can have the convenience of importing your data into the system in one fell swoop. Importing from Excel will need one to map the fields. If I pick an Excel file to import from, the system will scan the file and provide fields from which you can match to the ones existing on your Excel sheet. Let's work on an example with the Currency tab. Upon opening the tab, one will be greeted by currency data existing in the system, with information on the currency description, currency symbol, and if the currency is base or not. One can choose to add data to the system by clicking on the New button at the top left corner of the screen. One can then add the information on the currency description, the currency symbol, and check accordingly if the currency is base or not. This method allows you to add data to the system one by one. But if one has a large amount of data on currency, one can simply import the data into the system through Excel. I've got a sample Excel sheet with me to use as a reference. Here you can see I've got a field on currency description, currency symbol, and information on if the currency is base or not. I will then save the file in CSV format. Go to the system and click on the Import button. I will browse my device for the file and import it. Click on the OK button. The transformation page shown will display all the fields availed by the system. Fields that one needs to properly match to the ones existing on the imported Excel sheet. In this case, the currency description gets mapped to the currency description option, the currency symbol to the currency symbol option, and is base to the is base currency option. I will then click on the OK button to add the data to the system. The same applies to all configurations available on the Global Configurations tab. All the data on each configuration will be utilized in different areas of the system. Like under the tab for Relationship, data existing on this entry will come into play when one is adding a member and is bringing in the beneficiaries for that member. Others like batch types, when one goes to batch data entry, they will be able to define the various batch types, where one can have a batch type of pensioners, beneficiaries, contributors, members, and so on and so forth. All those various batch types are defined there because they will be applicable when bringing in batch data, which is basically on a periodic basis. Actual batch types are more or less static across the lifespan of a system, so they are majorly defined once, or under very minimal circumstances do they change. This goes back to what we said earlier, where what happens on these configurations has great implications on the whole system, so one really needs to know what they are doing to interact with this module. This module is normally reserved for system superusers to control the lookups which are going to be utilized when doing data capture.